Most High Christ. All right. All right. Shalom. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai thumb to the brothers. And Shalom. Yahweh Shema Alathun Hashem Yahweh Shai to the sisters. We are the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. Started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group, nor any other Christian organization, all right? So this is the Isupk Lashawan Qadash class, all right? It's the Lashawan Qadash class, all right? It's a very important class that we need to attend, all right? It's very important for us to learn our language. It's a part of our heritage. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of the traditions that were passed down from our forefathers. All right, you may have heard Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They spoke Hebrew. They spoke the Lashawan Qadash. The Israelites, we spoke the Lashawan Qadash. We spoke the Hebrew language. All right, so it's very important for us. It's very important for us to learn this language. Okay, all right, that's all right. That's all right. It's very important for us to learn this language. All right, all right. So now we're gonna get to it. All right. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get the board ready. Today we're learning about the present tense. All right? We're going to be learning about the present tense. And we're going to do a recap. All right? We're going to be doing a recap. So we will be going over what we went over last week and more and some. All right? Remember, it's very important for us to learn the Lashawan Qadash. We cannot miss this class. All right? We cannot miss it. We have to make sure we attend it, all right? It's very important, but let's get to it. Let's get to it. All right. Everybody can see the board? Con or lie? Everybody can see the board? Con or lie? Let me know. I think everybody can see the board. Most High in Christ. Okay. Most High in Christ. We can see the board. Come on. Most High in Christ. Most High in Christ. Alright, Most High in Christ, so the board can be seen. Alright, let's get into it. So do y'all remember a little bit about the present tense from last class? Do y'all remember it a little bit? That's alright. Alright, so we're going to go over it. We're going to do a little bit of a recap. Alright? So we got the present tense. I'm going to write it on the board. Alright, present. We're going over the present tense for the Lashawan Qadash. Does anybody remember the rule? Does anybody remember online? Does anybody remember the rule? The most important rule when it comes to the present tense. Does anybody remember the main rule in the present tense when it comes to the verbs? Anybody have an idea? Does anybody remember from last class? Do y'all remember? Alright. So the verb that we're going to use, alright, we're going to use bayan. Alright, bayan means to understand. Alright. So we used this verb last time. Alright. We used this verb last time, which was bayan. Alright. If you guys know the answer to the question, just let me know. You guys can still put it on, but I'm going to continue with the class, alright? So the previous question was, do you guys remember the rule when it comes to the present tense? If you guys don't remember, that's fine. But we're also going to do a recap. So we went over the verb bayan, which means to understand. So we're going to use bayan as an example. Alright? So let's write it on the board. Alright. Let me see if I can help this out a little bit. Alright, that's better for the board, so there's not too much of a glare on there. Alright, I got that taken care of. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go over the present tense for I am or I. Alright, so this is what we have. Let me see how I'm going to write this. All right. So anya, right, means I am. Come. So anya means I am. All right. So we're going to go over the present tense for I am. All right. So if I'm trying to say I understand or I'm understanding, this is what first you would have to use the word anya. All right, anya. All right, because that's you saying I or I am. All right, everybody got that so far? All right. So anya is I or I am. All right. All right. Now, let me see where I want to put it. Then we're going to write down the word bayan. All right. So bayan. Bayan means to understand. All right. So far we have I am, which is anya, and bayan, which means to understand. All right. Make sure you guys put this into your notes. This is just a recap. All right. This is just a recap from last week's class. All right. So I am is anya. All right. Bayan is to understand. Now, just briefly looking at the board, right? All right. This is your this is your na, and this is your ya. Put it together, it's anya. All right. I wrote it down at the bottom in the English so you guys can see it as an example. Anya. All right. Now this is for the word bayan or bayan, which means to understand. This is your ba, this is your ya, and then this is your na. Put it together, it's bayan. All right, bayan meaning to understand. All right, so keep these two words into memory. Now, there's a way to turn this into an actual sentence. All right. And I'm going to give it to you on the board, and I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to break it down, all right? I'm going to break it down for everybody. But these are the two words we're going to be using. Anya, meaning I or I am. Bayan, meaning to understand. All right? So anya, all right? Bayan, meaning to understand. So I'm going to get it. I'm going to write it down. Ka, bayan, meaning to understand. If you guys have any questions, let me know too as well. So let's do a little recap here. All right. Now, everybody sees on the board. Can everybody see what's on the board? All right. So now I'm going to break it down. Now, this is how to say, okay, so first, we're learning the present tense in the Lashawan Qadash. All right? Most High in Christ. So we're learning the present tense within the Lashawan Qadash. All right? Now, this is the first form, or the first basic form that everybody should really learn and know, because it's the easiest to understand. It's the present tense. It's very easy to understand. Now, this is in the position of authority tense, or it can be known as the masculine tense, all right? So, this is what you would be speaking majority of the time. Majority of the time, you would mostly be speaking in the position of authority tense. It's really rare to be speaking in the subservient tense or the feminine tense, all right? The majority of the time, you will be speaking in the masculine tense, all right? But we will learn both, all right? Because in the Bible, reading the scriptures, you'll see this. Not just in the position of authority tense, but also in the subservient tense. But this is the position of authority tense for I am. So the word for I am, what I went over earlier, was anya. This is your I, this is your na, and then this is your ya. All right, which is anya, which means I or I am. All right, which means I or I am. This right here, this word right here is bawayan. All right, it's bawayan. It still means bayan. The root verb right here is bayan. All right, so these three letters right here signifies the root verb being used here. All right, those three letters that you see, right? That's the root. Bayan. See, bayan. Those three letters right here makes up the word bayan. So bayan right here, that's the root verb. When reading the Lashawan Qadash, you always want to look for the root word being used, or either if it's a noun or a verb, you want to look for the root. The root is always the original verb or the original word being used. In this case, the original word being used is bayan. Now, to turn this into the present tense, I wrote down the rule. The letter Y goes between the first and second letter. So you see this ba? This is your first letter. So if you have a verb, bayan, so you have the verb right here, bayan, right here. Your ba is the first letter. Your ya is the second letter. So your ba is the first letter, and then your ya is the second letter. All right? The letter wa goes between the first and second letter. This wa, right? You see this wa? It's between the first and the second letter. This is how you turn a verb into the present tense, right? You always put the wa between the first and second letter, no matter which subject pronoun you use, because your anya is a pronoun, it's a subject pronoun, I or I am. It doesn't matter which one you use. This first rule will never change, right? This first rule will never change. Keep that in mind. This first rule will never change, all right? There's always going to be a wa in between your first and second letter. And also, it doesn't matter what verb you use. You can use any verb you want to use. that wa will always go between the first and second letter. Alright? So you will pronounce this as bawayan, which means I understand. Or it can mean I'm understanding. Alright? Which is anya bawayan. Now, alright. Let me write that because I want to make sure you guys can take that into your notes. Alright? Alright. Can you guys see that on the board? Alright. Most High in Christ. Alright. I think you guys can see that on the board. Alright. So anya either means I or I am. And bawayan is either understand or understanding. So last class I may have broke it down a little more in detail too, and I'm going to do it today, of course. So you see how this says understanding, right? When you turn things in the present tense in the English, right? Sometimes we're taught that you add an ing in the back of the verb, right? That's the English rule at times. When you're speaking in the present tense, you would say, I'm understanding. That ing will signify that in the English, this is the present tense. But in some cases, if I just wanted to say to you, in the present, I understand, I'm still speaking to you in the present tense. No matter what, that wa signifies both of these. Understand or understanding in the word bayan, which is pronounced bawayan. So bawayan still means understand or understanding. In the English, you would either have to say understand or understanding. Alright? In the Hebrew, all you have to say is bawayan. And depending on the context, the person will understand if you meant understand or understanding. Does that make sense to everybody? Alright? In the Lashawan Qadash, we try to use as minimal words as possible to get the point across. Alright? That's one of the glorious things of our language. It's very easy to understand. It's not hard to understand. It's very easy to speak as well. Alright? So, anya bawayan. Anya bawayan. Now also keep in mind, Hebrew is written from right to left. That's why you see anya, I am, on the right, and then you see bawayan, which is understand, to the left, because it reads right to left. Right? Hebrew reads right to left. But now, when I wrote it in the English, right, technically speaking, right, I wrote it like this for teaching purposes. But you can flip these if you wanted to. Alright? But for teaching purposes, I wrote right to left. Alright? I wrote right to left for teaching purposes. But since this is written in the English, you could write it from left to right if you wanted to. If you wanted to, if you are writing it like this, you can write that from left to right. But if you're writing it in the Hebrew, you will write it from right to left, okay? Because Hebrew is read and written from right to left. So, Anya Bawayan, I or I am. Alright, Anya Bawayan. Remember the rule. The letter Y goes between the first and second letter. This is your first letter. This is your second letter. Alright? Alright, now let's get the next. Alright, so now let's get the subservient tense. There's not that much of a change. Alright? You'll start to notice the pattern the more you see this, alright? You'll start to see the pattern. Alright? Alright. So, not much of a difference, right? Now this is in the subservient tense. Yes, ma'am. Now it's not much of a difference, right? It's pretty much the same. But the only main difference is the ha goes at the end of the word. Alright, it goes at the end of the word. Alright, that's the only difference. So this is pronounced as Anya Bawayana. Alright, the root word here and the root verb here still is bayan. Alright, it still doesn't change. Your ba is still here, your ya is still here, your na is still here. The root word is still bayan. Alright, the root verb and word right here is still bayan. But na, remember, this rule will never change. The letter Y goes between the first and second letters. That rule will never change, no matter which pronoun you use. That rule will never change. But the second rule may change depending on the tense that you use. When I'm referring to either position of authority tense or the subservient tense. Alright? So now you have Anya Bawayana. Anya Bawayana. Right? So you would use the subservient tense when you're speaking. In most cases, let's say you're speaking to a sister or an akhwat only. You would use this when speaking to her. Now, there's no penalty if you use the masculine tense. All right, there's no real penalty. There's no rule against it. All right, but for practice purposes too, right? You wanna, if you are talking to a sister, right, or you're talking to a sister, right? You want to get used to speaking like anya bawayana. All right. You wanna use that. Now, if you want to say anya bawayan, you can. All right. There's no penalties against it. But for practice, you do want to use bawayana. All right. So anya bawayana, which means I or I am, I understand, or I am understanding. All right. It still means the same thing. All right. But the only difference is the ha. It goes at the end of the verb right here. This is what right here. This is the change. This is the difference. All right. Ba wa ya na. Ba wa ya na. Ba wa ya na. Anya ba wa ya na, which means I understand or I am understanding in the present tense. Does everybody understand this so far? Everybody get it? Is it fairly easy? Fairly simple, right? Also, if you guys need, there is documents and PDF files that I have that I can send to you as well with all this information too. All right? So you guys can also study on your off time. Because remember, just coming to class on Friday to learn the Lashawan Qadash isn't going to help you learn the Lashawan Qadash. It's what you study and practice and rehearse the righteous acts on your own time besides Friday, all right, to learn the Lashawan Qadash, to learn the Hebrew language. All right? Just don't come to class on Fridays and expect to learn the Hebrew language and become a pro and a master at the Hebrew language. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to have to read Monday through Sunday. You're going to have to study Monday through Sunday, all right, to learn the Lashawan Qadash, all right? So, anya bawayana, all right? Anya bawayana. Now, just like, okay, and I also gave this example before too as well. Just like Spanish, right? The anya doesn't have to be there, all right? It doesn't necessarily have to be there. You can cut this off, right? And just say bawayana or bayan. It'll still mean I understand or I'm understanding. It'll still mean the same thing. All right? It'll still mean the same thing. If you say bawayana or you say bawayan or bawayana, it'll still mean I understand or I am understanding. But of course, for teaching purposes, I want you guys to say anya bawayana or anya bawayan, so you guys can get into the habit of knowing what anya is. Because sometimes in the scriptures, you'll see anya, and sometimes you won't see anya, but you'll just see bawayan, or you'll just see bawayana. All right? You say yes. No sweat. All right. So make sure you guys put this into your notes. This is just a recap. All right. So it's still anya bawayana. Can't right now. Just play something else. Alright, so it's anya bawayana. Now let's move on. We'll move on to the next. So now this is how you say I or I am, alright, in the present tense. So you can use this with any verb you want to. It doesn't have to be bayan. It doesn't have to be to understand. You can use the verb eat, which is akal. You can use the verb walk, which is halak, or to go, which is yalak. All right. You can use whatever verb you want. You can even say you can use the verb love, which is ahab. It doesn't matter what verb. It doesn't matter. All right? No matter what verb or word you want to use, the rule is never going to change. All right? All right. We're going to get another subject pronoun. I believe this is where we left off from last week, all right? All right. So now, what we have on the board now is atha bawayan. All right. So atha is another subject pronoun. It's another pronoun. This is your a, this is your tha, and this is your ha. Pronounced as atha. All right. So atha bawayan. Right. So atha is either you or you are. All right, so atha is either you or you are. So atha bawayan. Now, even though the subject pronoun changed from I am or to I am to you or you are, even though it changed from you or you are, the rule, the letter Y goes between the first and second letter. That Y is between the first and second letter. That rule does not change. All right, that rule does not change. All right. Now, that's only for the present tense. That this rule will never change. The letter Y goes between the first and second letter, depending on the subject pronoun. Only for the present tense. The subject pronoun does not change how the verb is changed. All right. It does not change it, all right? The rule is still the same. So atha bawayan, which means you understand or you are understanding. Now the reason why I want you guys to get in the habit of sometimes adding the subject pronoun to the sentence, because once again, Salakia, this does not match. Salakia about that. All right. Bawayan. Now, the reason why I wanted you guys to get used to saying atha bawayan or anya bawayan, right, instead of just saying bawayan or bawayana, due to the fact that because of your subject pronouns. Now, of course, depending on the context, yes, you'll be able to figure out what subject pronoun is being used if you're being spoken to. All right, but to make it easier for each other and have a little bit of brotherhood and sisterhood amongst each other, right? Because we're all learning this language together, right? And we're all learning, and this is something new to us. And we want to practice the fundamentals, right? The Lord says, rehearse the righteous acts. We want to focus on the fundamentals, all right? We ain't there yet when it comes to us just speaking it and we can just, understand it completely, and it doesn't matter if you use the subject pronouns or not. We ain't there yet. All right? We'll get there one day. Trust me, we will. We will get there one day. All right? But fundamentals is always a plus. All right? Even in the English language, we use fundamentals case by case scenarios, right? So let's do it in the Hebrew as well. So atha bawayan. Atha meaning you or you are. Bawayan, understand or understanding. Atha bawayan. Right? This is for the position of authority tense. Alright? Alright? The letter wa goes between the first and second letter. Remember, it doesn't change. The wa is between the first and second letter. Alright? Now let's get to subservient. All right. Here we go. Not much of a change, right? This is in the subservient tense. Atha bawayana. The root verb is still bayan. Ya ba, ya ya, and ya na. Ya ba, ya ya, and ya na. Bayan, meaning to understand. That's the root word right there. That's the root verb right there. All right? Bawayana is how you conjugate the verb for the subject pronoun atha. Atha bawayana. Atha bawayana, which means you or you are, you understand or you are understanding in the subservient tense. Alright? So atha bawayana. Atha bawayana. Alright? The letter wa goes between the first and second letter. The wa goes between the first and second letter. The ha goes at the end of the verb. See that? The ha goes at the end of the verb. Alright? Right? Not too difficult. So, atha bawayana. So, if you wanted to say you understand, if you're speaking to someone and you say, and let's say you're talking to a sister, you're like, okay, you understand. You would say atha bawayana. If you're speaking to a brother, right, and you want to be like, okay, you understand, you would say atha bawayan. Everybody see how I did that? So if I'm talking to a brother, I would say atha bawayan. Be like, okay, you understand. If I'm talking to a sister, I would say atha bawayana. Everybody understands? You see how everybody sees how I did that, right? Count a lie. Everybody gets that, right? Not too bad, right? It's not too bad, right? It's not too bad at all. It's the present tense is the easiest tense you will learn. All right. So we have a present tense. We have a present tense. We have a past tense, and we have a future tense. All right. The present tense is the easiest tense to learn. All right? All right? The present tense is the easiest tense to learn. It's very good to get, it's very good practice to start with the present tense to pretty much get you ready for the future and the past tense. All right? All right? Come on. You all right? Okay, no sweat. All right, so atha bawayana, Most High in Christ. It's not, trust me, it's not too shabby. Now let's get the next one. Alright, let's get to the next one. This is where we left off last week, so we're moving on. Alright, I want to say this is where we left off at. If not, Khan. Yeah, we left off at Athar, I'm sure. Khan. We left off at Athar. Now we're going to get the next one. Everybody knows their subject pronouns, right? I, you, he, she, we, right? Everybody knows their pronouns, right? Well, I'm not talking about possessive pronouns here. I'm just talking about subject pronouns, like your I, your yous, your he's and she's, your we's, you alls and all that stuff, and them, right? They, like they are and all that stuff. All right. Everybody knows that, right? So we're gonna go over them, all right? Because there's different ones. So the next one we're gonna do is for he, all right? We're gonna learn how to say he in the Hebrew as well, all right? Now I think I'm gonna need a little bit more room. I think. Because the word for he in the Hebrew is a little long. It's not crazy long, but it's a little long. So let me see. Let's see. All right. Here we go. So, he, all right. He is Hawa'ah. All right. So he is Hawa'ah. This is your ha. This is your wa. This is your ah. Right, which is Hawa'ah. So your he is your hawa. It's pronounced Hawa'ah. Okay. It's pronounced Hawa'ah. What's going on with you? Okay. So Hawa'ah is he. All right. Hawa'ah is he. Now, because the subject pronoun is already in a position of authority tense, it's only going to be used one way in this case. Does everybody understand that? Because it's using the word he. Oh man, Salaki, I didn't mean to erase a little bit of it. Salaki. So because the subject pronoun here is he, all right, it's not going to change, all right, because you're already talking about someone that would be in a position of authority. So it's going to be pronounced just like this: Hawa'ah, Bawayan. All right, right. Hawa'ah is he. Hawa'ah is he. So no matter what, your he is always going to be Hawa'ah in the Hebrew. So if you wanted to say he such and such, you would always say Hawa'ah. All right, that's a definite. That'll never change. All right. But because we're already saying he, meaning someone already in position of authority, it's going to be Bawayan. All right? All right? Because you're talking about someone that is in a position of authority. or like a masculine tense. So hawa'a bawayan. So hawa'a bawayan, which means he understands, or he is understanding. All right. Now let me change this a little bit. Of course, I should have did that. He understands with an S. All right. Now, in the Hebrew, all right, we don't have a word for is like in the English, right? So that's implied. This word is going to be implied within the sentence. So hawa'a bawayan, which would mean either he understands or it would mean he is understanding. All right? There is no word for is. It's implied. All right? In the English language, there's like a little word for everything. Like an example, like R-A-R-E or is, I-S, like the letter A. Like all those things are not in the Hebrew language. All right? Those type of words would be implied within the language. All right? Everybody understands that? Comment loud, just let me know. All right? So hawa'a bawayan, which means he understands, or it means he is understanding. All right? In this rule, the letter Y goes between the first and second letters. The Y goes between the first and second letters. Remember, that rule does not change for the present tense. This first beginning rule will never change in the present tense. All right? No matter what subject pronoun you use, the first rule will never change. The letter Y goes between the first and second letters. All right? That's the main rule that will never change. All right? So hawa'a bawayan. Hawa'a bawayan, which means he understands or he is understanding. Does anybody want to give? Well, actually, Salaki, I won't ask that. All right. Everybody, make sure you put this into your notes, and we're going to get the next one. We're going to get she understands or she's understanding. Anybody want to give it a shot on how to say it? Does anybody want to give it a shot? You guys could go on. You guys could put it into the chat, but give it a shot. If you guys know, if you guys don't know how to say she, that's fine, because I'm going to write it on the board now. All right. All right. But now remember, she is in the subservient tense at this time, right? So, I like how that young little. I don't know how that looks either, so look. All right. Most High in Christ. That is correct. Haya'a bawa yana. That is absolutely correct. Now, haya'a is how you would say she. Now, because she is already in the subservient tense, right? Pretty much in the feminine tense, right? You know, in context speaking, by the way, right? It's going to be a ha at the end of the word, right? So remember, the first rule never changes. The letter Y goes between the first and second letter. So the Y is always going to be between the first and second letter, no matter what verb you use. So haya'a is how you say she. So like here, she or she is. Alright? She or she is. Alright? So haya'a bawa yana. Because remember, the ha goes at the end of the verb. This is only when you're speaking in the feminine, it's like the subservient tense. Alright? You're talking about a she already. So the verb has to be in the subservient tense because you're referring to someone that is a she. Right? Just like in Spanish, when you're their gender matters. Alright? You know, gender matters. Okay? In the Hebrew language, roles and positions and genders matter, okay? Especially Khan. Question, Khan. So when it comes to the Hebrew language, depending on what position you're in, alright? Alright? And genders and all that stuff, it matters. If you are talking to the female, Khan, in this case, Khan, yes, Salaki Khan, you would add the ha at the end. Because, okay, so, Khan, okay, because let's say, okay, so Khan, good Khan, that was a great question. So, let's say you're talking to a brother, and you're talking about a woman, because you're saying she, right? So, so let's say you're talking to a brother, me and a brother's talking, and I'm talking about, whatever, some sister, and I said, yeah, this sister right here, she's understanding, right? I'm talking to the brother saying she's understanding, even though, one second. So when I'm talking to the brother, even though I'm talking to a brother, right, I'm still referring to a she in the sentence. So you would still say she as in haya'a bawa yana. Now, depending what else I'm saying in the sentence, depending on the context, yes, the majority of the words will be in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. It depends. All right, but if I'm talking about a sister, or when I'm using she, right, haya'a, if I'm saying she understands, you would still add the ha, because you're talking about the woman. You're talking about the sister. Yes, ma'am. What's going on? Be careful, okay? You okay? Alright. Be careful. Don't lean on it. Alright, so Khan, you would still put the ha at the end. That's only in this case though. Alright? That's only if you're talking about a woman in that's only if you're using she is understanding. If you're saying it in a verb context, if you're using a verb and you're using the word she in front of that verb, it is okay to put the ha at the bawa yana. That's not offensive if you're talking to a brother, because when you're talking to the brother, you're talking about a woman. But now, if you're I don't want to get too advanced here, Salakia. Later on, after the present and the future tenses and the past tenses, when we go over it, I'll start to form bigger sentences. So you'll see the difference. Because sometimes in a sentence, you will switch back and forth from the position of authority tense and switch back and forth from the subservient tense. All right, depending on how you write that sentence and how you say that sentence. All right, and also depending on who you're talking to, of course. So you'll be jumping back and forth. All right, almost like Spanish in a way. Almost like Spanish. It's almost very similar to Spanish when it comes to the when you're doing these verbs. All right. Did I answer the question, Kanola? Just let me know. Did that answer the question? And does everybody understand too as well on what I broke down? If you are talking to a brother and you would still Most High in Christ. Most High in Christ. So when you are talking to a brother, it is okay to put the ha at the end in this case because you're using the word she. Alright? Haya'a. Or she is. She or she is. That's okay. Alright? So haya'a bawayana. Haya'a bawayana. Meaning she understands or she is understanding. Alright? She understands or she is understanding. Alright, Most High in Christ. Alright. Now, the next one that we got, I'm going to have to, now this for sure, this Hebrew word, this subject pronoun Hebrew word is very long. Alright? So I'm going to have to erase a little bit of what's going on. And I'm going to just break it down to you guys. Alright? So I'm going to write it on the board first and I'm going to break it down. Now this is a perfect example. Okay, what's coming up next is the word we. This is also going to put the icing on the cake to make everybody understand how important it is when it comes to the position of authority tense and the subservient tense, okay? It's very important. So this right here is I can say that goes. And this is gonna go. Alright? I'm gonna write it on the board first so everybody understands, alright? So everybody can just see what I'm about to write. All right. Here we go. All right, let's see. I'm going to break it down to you guys. I just want to make sure you guys can see. Okay, so, all right, you guys can see it on the board. Most High in Christ. All right. All right, here we go. Now, this is for we, or we are. The word for we is anak nawa. All right, I told you the word for we is kind of, in the English, it's just two letters, right? W and an E. Well, we in the Hebrew, it's five letters, so Salakia. All right, so anak nawa is how you say we. All right, anak nawa is how you say we, or we are. All right, so anak nawa is how you say we or we are. If you're from the South, we is. Okay, Salakia. All right, but we or we are. All right, so anak nawa. All right, this is your this is your na, this is your cha. Anak, this is your na, this is your wa. So anak nawa. Anak nawa. All right, it's how you say anak nawa. All right. Salakia, be careful, guys, okay? All right. Anak nawa is how you say we or we are. All right. Now, here's the difference. Because, okay, you guys notice the difference, right? You got the difference that you guys see here is what? Do you guys notice the difference? Can anybody tell me the difference that you guys see? I want to see if you guys see the difference. Can you guys see the difference? And tell me the difference. I want to see if you guys can see the difference. Let me know. If I'm still gonna teach it right. Right, the yum. Right, there you go. That's the difference, the yum. Now, let me break it down. Remember, the first rule never changes, right? Remember I told you. The first rule will never change no matter what subject pronoun you use. So the letter Y goes between the first and second letter. So the Y goes between the first and second letters. That rule will never change. All right? All right? That rule will never change. But the yum, right? Salaki word, what? What's up? Everything okay? Hold on. So, the yum, right? You have a yum at the end of bawayan. So this would be saying bawayanyum. That yum makes it more than one. Because there's more than one person. Because we're talking about we. So if I was speaking to someone, right, and I wanted to say we understand or we are understanding, I would have to put that yum in this case at the end of the verb. Play with your tablet. All right, you can't play with this. This is the girl's toy. Play with your tablet. All right. Okay, it's okay. All right. You also put that away. All right, put it away. And play with your tablet, okay?
But you say this is for girls.
It is for girls. So make sure you keep it away from your brother and play with your tablet, all right? The water. All right. Now, so anak nawa bawayanya. All right. So anak nawa bawayanya. That yum goes at the end of the verb. So that yum goes at the end of the verb. Now, this is what I want to break down to you guys. Here, and I'm going to write it for you. Because Most High in Christ. That's a good question. Salaki, sir, what would it be for feminine plural? I'm about to break it down to everybody. That's a good question. So, why this? Okay. All right. This right here is going to be in the position of authority tense or the masculine tense. No matter who you're talking to, who you're talking about, it's always going to be, right, in a position of authority tense. Or it's always going to be in the masculine tense, and here's why. We could be, let's say, we is me, some other brother, and two sisters. Because there are two men in that example of we, right? No matter what, because there's two men involved in that we, the rule is always going to be in a position of authority tense. All right? It's always going to be in the masculine tense because the masculinity or the position of authority takes over in this case. All right? Does that make sense to everybody? So no matter what, for this particular anaknawa, for we, is always going to be yum. This is the position of authority tense. All right? It's always going to stay masculine. It's always going to stay in the position of authority. Because we could be men and women. But because it could be men and women, because there's men within the example, is always going to be in the position of authority tense. All right? And can also be in the position of authority tense. All right? It's always going to be that. Now, earlier there was a question. All right? And it was a good question too. All right? I want to, I don't want to go into detail yet. Maybe if I want to go, the next one that's coming, I'll break that down as well. Because there was a question, let me go back into the comments. Because there was a question that I also wanted to go in further detail. If you are talking to a female, you add the ha. Right. So I want to go into more depth about that question too as well. Because there is rules when you're talking to a group of people too as well. So let's say you're speaking to a group of people. All right? This is why I tell you there's no penalty between the masculine tense or the feminine tense, so there's no penalty when it's being used. Or the position of authority tense to the subservient tense. There is no penalty when you use it in a case-by-case scenario, right? When you're talking to a group of people. So when you're talking to a group of people, you'll mostly speak in the position of authority tense, all right? I just want to put that out there, right? So when you're speaking to a group of people, you're always going to stay in the position of authority tense or the masculine tense, all right? All right? You're always going to keep it like that. Now, of course, if you're talking to a group of people and you're referring to a woman somewhere or to a sister, like she's doing something or she's saying something or she's understanding, when you're talking to a group of people, you would still, in that case, still put the ha at the end. But the majority of the words being used will always be in the masculine tense or in the position of authority tense, all right? Does everybody understand that? Kind of let me know. I'm gonna give you an example soon. But if you understand what I'm saying, you can still say kana or la, all right? But make sure you put this into your notes. I'm going to give y'all time to write that into your notes. Anak nawa bawayanyam. Anak nawa bawayanyam. Remember, the root word is still bayan. The root word is still bayan. Your ba, your ya, and your na. But it's pronounced bawayanyam because you're using anak nawa. Alright? Alright? Most High in Christ. Alright, so bawayanyam. Alright, now you'll see something like this in the Hebrew. So of course in the Hebrew. You'll see something like this when you're reading the Bible in the Hebrew. Alright, you will see something like this. Alright? And don't let it confuse you. Alright, don't let it confuse you. You're going to be like this. What type of word is that? You're going to be like, What type of word is that? There's a ba, a wa, a ya there, a na, a ya, and a ma. What word is that? That don't make no sense. You want to look for the root word. You want to look for the bayan. If it's another verb, look for those root words. There's a PDF document called the 100 most common verbs. That list was literally created because throughout the Bible, those are the most common verbs you'll see. Now, just like in any language, there's always 5 or 6 different other words how to say the same word. The Hebrew has that too. All right? You know, like fast, the most common verb, let's say in English, the most common verb is fast. But you have another word, quick, right? Quick and fast is almost the same thing, right? It's the same thing, but quick may not be as common as fast. Well, think of it this way. Bayan is common throughout the scriptures. Bayan is common. You'll see bayan a lot, right? But, you know, there's a word called shakal, right? It still means understand, but you're not going to see it as much. But it's still a word. It's still a verb as in some cases. All right. So anak nawa bawayanyam. All right. All right. Now our language is very meaningful. By the way, our language is very meaningful. All right. Our verbs can also be nouns. That's why. Sometimes, actually, not even sometimes. The words that we use in our language can also be our names, because our language is so meaningful. Our language is a very spiritual language. All right. I also wanted to break that down too. Salakia, I wanted to break that down in the beginning of class. Our language is very spiritual. Our language is very meaningful. All right. So the words that we use, even how we speak, they mean something. All right. Salaki, sir, what would be the use case of shakal? It was still, okay. It was still, okay, so shakal would still be we understand or we're understanding. So you would still use it. It's almost like you're just using another word. Like, how can I explain it? It's almost like, you know, okay, come on, I'll explain it this way. Every brother and sister has a different way of speaking. Their vocabulary is different. Just like that. You might come from, let's say you come from the land of Gad, right? The land of Gad mostly uses the word bayan, right? Well, let's say I come from the land of Reuben, and we're used to saying the word shakal. We're still saying the same thing. Sometimes it can be because where we come from, how we speak, how we say things. We have different dialects. It still means the same thing. Does that make sense? You're not saying anything different from the next brother. It's just everyone's vocabulary is different. So throughout the scriptures, these records were written by Israelites. So you have different priests and prophets that come from different areas. All right? You know, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, right? They all come from different regions, right? In different parts. They're still Israelites, but they come from different parts. So they speak different. They have different vocabularies, you know. So when you read like the book of Jeremiah, or you read the book of Ezekiel, and you read the book of let's say Job and things like that in the Hebrew, you're going to see them use different words. Some may have similarities. You're going to see some have many differences on how they say things, but they're still saying the same thing. Come, Most High in Christ. So it's the same. It just depends. Okay? Everyone has their different vocabularies. That's why it's a black man's book. That's why it took blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to understand the Bible. All right, and actually break it down, because it's written in our language. It's written in how we talk and how we speak. All right. All right. So. So Most High in Christ. So it's the same thing. Some may say bayan, some may say shakal. All right. So anak nawa bawayanyam. All right. Anak nawa bawayanyam. All right. Let's get the next one. All right. All right, so we're going to get, here we go. We're going to get you plural, as in like you all or y'all. All right. Now, remember when we used we were talking about more than one, right? So same concept when we use same concept in this case, all right? When using you plural or a thumb. All right. So now, all right. Let me put the. Okay. So, once again, not much of a change, right? Remember, I told you the first rule is never going to change no matter what. No matter what subject pronoun you use, right? That letter Y is going to go between the first and second letters. See, it doesn't change. The Y goes between the first and second letters. Now, this is the word a thumb. A thumb is how you say you all, right? It's okay. Y'all or you all or pretty much you plural, meaning you're speaking to someone as saying you, but there's more than one person, right? If I want to be like, oh, y'all understand. Let's say I'm teaching a class and I'm teaching it in Hebrew, and I want to say, okay, y'all understand. I would say a thumb. I would have to use a thumb. Now, if I'm saying someone individually, which is you, then I would use the word a thah. So a thumb is plural for a thah, but in the position of authority tense, of course. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? Kind of la. Of course, the next one is going to be for the subservient tense or the feminine tense, right? And that's a thun. A thun. But we're going to go over that. But a thumb is position of authority tense. All right. A thumb. All right. So a thumb is talking about more than one. Right? I'm talking to a group of people, right? So I'm talking to y'all, right? Like as if I'm talking right now, I'm talking to y'all. So I'm saying y'all understand or y'all are understanding, right? Most High in Christ. So a thumb, bawiyam. Now remember that yum goes at the end of the verb because I'm talking to more than one person. And because there's more than one, meaning it's pluralized. We have to pluralize the verb. We have to make it plural because I'm talking to more than one person. Or we are talking to more than one person, right? So we have to pluralize the verb. So we have to put yum at the end of it. So a thumb, bawiyanyam. All right, so it's a thumb, bawiyanyam, which means you all understand or you all are understanding. Now, this is the example I wanted to use. Let's say there's 5 brothers in class and there's, put it this way. Let's say there's 5 brothers in class and there's 5 sisters in class, right? Let's say that. So there's 10 people in class in total, right? And let's say I want to say in Hebrew, y'all understand. You know, let's say I'm teaching some lesson on the Lashawan Qadash, And y'all starting to get it. So I'm like, okay, y'all understand, right? You would use the position of authority tense because there's 5 men, right? There's 5 men. Now, let me break it down to you this way too. Let's say there's 100 sisters in class. All right? Let's say there's 100 sisters in class, and there's 1 man that came to class, right? So let's say there's 1 brother in class. 1 brother came. 1 man came to class. And then there's 100 sisters that came to class. And I still wanted to say y'all understand. I would still use a thumb bawayanya because that 1 brother outranks all those sisters. Does that make sense? Kanala. Everybody understands? That's how important it is. That's how important a man is in Israel. That's how important a man is. That's how important he is. Alright? 1 brother could be in class and there could be 1,000 sisters on the other side. If I wanted to say y'all understand, I have to say a thumb bawayanya. Okay? I would have to say a thumb bawayanya. Alright? Because there was a brother there. Everybody understand? Kanala. No sign of Christ. Most High in Christ. Okay, Most High in Christ. So a thumb bawayanya. Alright? A thumb bawayanya. Alright? Which means you all understand or you all are understanding. Alright? A thumb bawayanya. Okay? Alright? Alright, make sure you guys put this into your notes. We're going to get the next one. I want to get to the next one before Khan. I definitely want to get to the next one because I want to give the same example but explain it more in detail. Now that goes into reference with the one of the first questions being asked because we want to know, usually when it comes to talking to a group, this is where it's important of when to use the position of authority tense and the subservient tense. When talking individually to people, there's no real consequence, okay, when it comes to using the position of authority tense or the feminine tense. Would it be nice to practice the feminine tense so when you are just talking to a sister, you can talk? Yes, I would do that. Of course, because Israel, because our language is a masculine language, because our language is a position of authority language, a lot of our words and a lot of our verbs and all that stuff is in the position of authority tense, and because it's mostly used, okay? Because men play an important role, and because the Most High, right? It was always in the masculine form. Our culture, our heritage, our traditions, it's very, very masculine. Salakia, very, men mattered in Israel to the point where it's in our culture, it's in our heritage, it's in our traditions, it's within our language. Okay, but because of America and because the English language is so homo, it doesn't matter gender doesn't matter, positions don't matter. There's so much confusion in the language. There's no real discipline is taught when it comes to the English language. All right, give or take, the Spanish language shows more discipline than the English language because they do in Spanish. It does matter if you're talking to a man or you're talking to a woman. In Hebrew, it's the same thing. It matters if you're talking to a man or you're talking to a woman or you're talking to someone that has a high position. All that stuff matters. Go ahead.
Pack a chocolate cookie.
1 second, all right?
Okay.
So, all right? So, it matters, okay? It definitely matters, so keep that in mind. So, let's say I'm talking at camp, and I'm talking, let's say I'm speaking at camp, and I'm speaking Hebrew at camp, like I'm speaking nothing but Lashawan Qadash at camp, I would be mostly speaking in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense because there's going to be brothers and sisters walking amongst us outside, at camp, okay? So I think that's a perfect example to use. We speak in the masculine tense majority of the time because we could be talking to a brother or a sister at the same time. So sometimes you may not be able to, it's all about context. If you're focusing on just all people, you would use the masculine tense. And if you're talking just to a sister, then you would focus on the subservient tense. But if you're just focusing on a brother, of course you would use position of authority tense. Let me know if I confused anyone. But does everybody understand kind of lie on what I said? I'm gonna get the next one. All right. But while I get the next one, put kind of lie if you guys understood what I said. Not right now, baby. Not right now. Okay, Most High in Christ. Most High in Christ. All right. Now everybody look at now. Okay. Everybody sees the board, right? Everybody sees the board. Oh, Salaki. I'm thinking of the Salaki. Scratch what's on the board real quick. Salaki. I did the I'm in the wrong tense. Salaki. Salaki. It's not it. That is not it. Salaki.
There's a little circle there.
Okay.
There's a little circle there.
I know.
I see it. It's a tiny, 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 come on now.
Stop stomping, all right? Okay, that's correct now. All right, Salaki. I was in the wrong tense for a second. All right, Salaki. Right, here we go. A thun. All right, a thun. Okay, a thun. So a thun is you all or you are plural, right? This is going to be in the subservient tense. All right, this is going to be in the subservient tense. So this is if you're talking to a group of, let's say, there's a bunch of sisters out there. Let's say this is the sisters, right? You would use a thun. All right. So this is your this is your tha, and this is your na, right? A thun. A thun is you all or you all are in the subservient tense. All right. A thun is for females. That's why when you hear our salute and we're talking, let's say we're saluting sisters, that's why you would hear us say Yahweh Shema Ala Thun by Shem Yahweh Shai, because we're talking to a group of sisters. Now let's say if I was just talking to a sister, I would just use a tha. All right, I would just use a tha. Okay, but if I'm talking to a group of sisters, I would use a thun. That's why when you hear us salute brothers, right, we would say Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai Baraka Thumb, because I'm talking to a group of brothers. But if I was just talking to one brother, I would just say Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai Brakatha. Okay? So a thun is for sisters, all right, for females. You all or you all are, all right? Now, a thun, right? Now, the first rule doesn't change. The letter Y goes between the first and second letters. See, that Y goes between the first and second letters. Remember, that's the main rule that will never change. It will never change. But here's the difference. We have to pluralize the verb. All right? In this case, you'll pluralize the verb by using wa. All right? Wa. That's why it says bawayanwa. Bawayanwa. So a thun bawayanwa, which means you all understand or you all are understanding. So let's say I'm talking to sisters and I want to say to them, you guys are understanding, right? You all are understanding, right? Or you all understand. And I'm talking to a group of sisters. I would have to use a thun, and then I would have to say bawayanwa. Bawayanwa. I would have to say bawayanwa. All right? I would have to say bawayanwa. All right? The wa goes at the end of the verb. Now, you guys notice there's a pattern, right? Usually, the pattern is it changes from position of authority to subservient tense or the masculine tense to the feminine tense. That's the pattern. The pattern is the ending changes. That's the pattern. Depending on who you're talking to, the ending will only change, but the beginning does not. All right, that's the pattern. Bawayanwa. All right, bawayanwa. So a thun, bawayanwa. All right, a thun, bawayanwa is how you would say you all are understanding or you all understand. A thun, bawayanwa. So if I'm talking to a group of sisters, right, and it's only sisters I'm talking to and referring to, right, because I'm directing it to the sisters only, I would have to use a thun, bawayanwa. Now, if I'm talking to brothers and brothers only, and I want to say you guys understand, right, I would have to say a thumb, bawayanyum. All right, bawayanyum. All right. So it doesn't matter. Depending on how you're speaking, who you're speaking to, it matters. That's why in the Isupk we teach context matters. That's why the Christian church is so disgusting. That's why the Christian church is so disgusting, because they don't know how to read. You have to know how to read to be an Israelite. You have to know. You have to know what's important as an Israelite. Within our own language, it's important to know what you're talking about and who you're talking to, right? Context is everything. It matters. No matter what you do in life, context matters. Just know everything matters. Don't allow anyone to tell you something doesn't matter. Everything matters. All right? Everything plays a part some way, somehow. Okay? You can take that in anywhere you go. Everything matters. No matter what you do, it can play a part. All right? It can play a part.
Daddy.
Yes, sir. What's going on? It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Give me guys a few more moments. All right? So, this is how you would say a thun bawayanwa. All right? A thun bawayanwa. Everybody understands? Kanala? All right? Went over a time. Salakia. Everybody understands? Kanala? All right? If you guys have any questions, just let me know too as well. All right? All right? Just let me know. Kanala. Mosa in Christ. Khan. Mosa in Christ. All right? Now, remember, practice Practice, practice, practice this. You want to rehearse this. You want to try to make it become second nature too. All right? I believe next class we have only but 2 more, and then we're gonna kind of play with it a little bit. We're gonna make sentences and things like that. All right? All right? We're gonna make sentences. All right? So,
How do you make sentences?
I'll teach you. Don't worry. So now. So we're gonna kind of play with it next week, all right? Because we only have 2 more, all right? And we'll do a little bit of a recap while we kind of make sentences up and add different things to it, all right? You know, we're gonna, I guess you could say, we're gonna spice it up a little bit, all right? All right. Throw some haymakers in there, maybe, all right? So we can kind of get the concept of how to speak in the present tense. I'm telling you, you're gonna be, once you learn how to speak in the present tense, the past tense and the future tense is going to be real easy too. It's going to help you, all right? And then one day you're going to have the present tense and the future tense and the past tense in one sentence, all right? Or I should say in a paragraph if you speak, you know. You guys get it, all right? All right, because we don't do run-on sentences here, right? But all right, with that. We're going to go ahead and get the announcements, all right?
Can we get chocolate cookies now?
Not yet. Sit down. Give me a few more moments, all right?
I can try again.
All right. ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK, started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission. He or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi chapter 3 verse 8 through 10. Ma'ashera means 10th in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocation is the Feast of First Fruits. All right, that's on May 22nd. The Feast of First Fruits. That's coming up real soon. All right, that's coming up real soon. The 22nd of May. The Feast of First Fruits. All right. With that, I say Amayim, which means to stand. We're going to give a courage salute to the brothers. All right, men of Israel, Aman Shabbat, Amayim, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Brakathum, Yana Matah, Sar La'akwakian, which means turn and face the sisters. All right, men of Israel, we're going to give a courage salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Aman Shabbat, Amayim, Barak, Yahweh Shema Alathun Ba'ashim Yahushua. Yana Matah. With that, class dismissed.